guys, thanks for joining us. This is Troy with Cape Ann Conversations, and today I've got Jessica here from the Lobster Roller.
Yeah, hi.
You know, just a quintessential North Shore business here, people. I'm going to pass it over to you. Give us a little history on how you got started with the Lobster Roller.
Okay, this idea was, I have to give credit, it was actually my husband's idea. He's a lobster fisherman, and he always had the idea to run a small business and have it be a food truck called the Lobster Roller. So he wanted me to do it and wanted to do it, and he was too busy to do it himself. So I said no for a couple of years, and then I was one of those COVID people looking for a change. So as we were all cooped up and all these small business ideas started, I was one of those people, and I said, I will try this. We will get into it for the cheapest amount of money possible. So we got a little trailer, and I wanted to get into it for the lowest amount possible in case I didn't like it, in case I hated it. So we did that, and we started with the trailer, and our first event was July 31st of when people first started to do outdoor events. If you'll remember, at that time, people said, okay, you can't gather indoors, but you can go outside. So local event companies started to reintroduce their events. So we started right as that was coming back into action, and people were ready to get outside and see people and spend some money. So that worked out well for us. That was our first season, and now we're entering season number 5. And obviously I liked it, and it worked out well. So we worked with the trailer for 2 seasons, and then we took that money and bought a traditional food truck. And now we've had the traditional food truck for 2 seasons. And then last summer we got a takeout shop in Rockport for our first brick and mortar. So that's how it started. It was a COVID, locked indoors. When we go back to normal, I want my normal to maybe be a little different than what it has been. So let me try this new business and see how it works out.
And so at the start, your husband's catching all of the lobsters that
Yes.
you're cooking and
Yes.
bringing to everybody. Are you doing this like out of your house?
No, we can't
start?
do it out of the house. We can't do it out of the house. So you have to have a commercial kitchen. So we used a commercial kitchen space for that. But that was the idea, right? He's a lobster fisherman. I'm going to have a lobster roll truck. We'll cut out the middleman. We'll cook and shuck the lobsters ourselves. And we did that for a couple of times and realized, hats off to the people who do that for a living, and they get paid what they should get paid, even more so because that work is hard. And my hands were shredded. And he would go out lobster fishing and then come help me cook and pick them. And he was also exhausted. So that's when we realized very quickly we needed to pay somebody else to do that. So,
Plus, you're growing so fast. It's like, all right, it's one thing when it's like your gig is in a cart or something, and you're doing a few dozen lobster rolls. But when you get to the volume, and you're not just doing lobster rolls too. Like now that you're in the food truck, you're doing lobster rolls and cheeseburgers and hot dogs and fries, and there's a lot.
It's a lot
to a day.
It's a lot to manage. So the fact that we can pay, we work with Mortar Lobster here in town in Gloucester. The fact that they will gather the lobster and cook it and pick it, and then I just pick it up in 5-pound buckets, already cooked and picked, it just makes my life a lot easier, a lot easier. So, and it's good, locally fresh sourced meat that we're proud of.
Yeah. That's perfect. Everybody's sort of winning, and your hands are less shredded.
Yeah. It costs more money, but it's worth it in the end for us to keep going and maintain our sanity and my hands.
So we've got one truck today.
Yes.
And what's like the radius that you have taken this truck in time now? Because you when you started out, you were just really Rockport, Gloucester.
No, in the beginning, we actually would go anywhere that anyone invited us to go ever. So our second event was on Cape Cod, because we didn't know where to go.
Just like experience.
Yeah, if you invite us, we're going to go. So we would take the 2.5-hour trek to Cape Cod and not really know what we were doing and just figure it out on the fly. Now I have reined that in. So now we're pretty much within a 90-minute radius. And once you get to that 90 minutes or further out, then I really start to question whether or not it's worth us going because of gas, paying people to drive there, and everything that's associated with that. And now we have enough stuff happening closer to us that we now know about and people know about us, where we can stay closer to home and still do a pretty good job of filling our schedule.
Yeah. So tell everybody, so you've operated in a couple different like locations now, but give us kind of the history where you've been so people that are listening to this can also kind of picture you, right? The Lobster Roller. And now where are you going to be in the coming, 2025 season, the summer season?
Yeah, so our second season is when we got involved with the local Gloucester scene of finding a spot in Gloucester, a home-based spot to sell out of. So that was with our little trailer, and that was on the boulevard. Then from there, the next season, we went to Stagefort Park with the food truck. And then last season, we were in front of the building center with the food truck. And this summer, we're going back to the boulevard with the food truck. So a lot of people still remember us from the boulevard with the little trailer. They say, hey, you're the food truck on the boulevard. And while we do events on the boulevard, we haven't been there routinely for 4 seasons now. So now that we're coming back to the boulevard. So a lot of our local friends will appreciate that, while we can also expose ourselves to the tourists that are coming to town to go check out the boulevard.
What did it take for you to get a boulevard spot?
It is a sealed bid process through the city. So, and that's public knowledge. You submit a check in a sealed envelope for what you think each spot is worth, and you put it in order of which spot you would like first or second or third, and whoever has the highest bid gets that spot. So
that's
it's nerve-wracking.
Yeah, when you're trying to run a business,
Yes.
and you're like, is this every year too?
Every year, yeah, every January.
And so you're unsure. I mean, you could say like, okay, this is what I bid last year. I want to bid the same amount, maybe plus 5% or something, and hope. But like,
Right.
technically, anybody could come in and.
Yeah, I did it to others where I pushed them aside, and then it's also happened to me where I've been pushed aside for spots that I really wanted and didn't get. So, but that's the way the city does it, and we abide by those rules. And this year we were lucky enough that we got back to the boulevard, which I consider a prime location out of the spots that are offered.
What are the hours down at the boulevard, typically?
We'll traditionally do around 11 to 3-ish. The city rules say you have to be out by, I believe, 6 o'clock. So I don't know if it's worth it for us to stay open between that dead 3 to 4:30 window and then try to get a dinner crowd. So that's why we traditionally do lunchtime, and it'll mostly be Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday type schedule.
So
weekends.
less during the early part of the week, because you're getting a lot of tourists.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You're getting locals too, but the tourists are really.
Yeah. For what we sell, for the lobster rolls and clam chowder, that's the tourists are, and we also do a lobster grilled cheese, which is popular. So the tourists are into that food, while the locals will come to us for the smash burgers, hot dogs, the grilled cheese, and French fries.
And I guess you're doing other events too, right? So
Yeah.
maybe talk a little bit about that, because that's where you're going when you're not on the boulevard.
Right. So the events for us are crucial because more often than not, it is a large volume of people in a small space, and they're looking for something to eat. We started off doing the large events, which was good because I was very hesitant, but it just pushed me into the deep end where you have to figure things out very quickly and serve a large volume of people very quickly.
Yeah.
So we've become pretty good at that, but the events are where it's high risk, high reward, or you could lose big too. So
they don't have to prepay for the event, or is there like a minimum that they have to buy? If somebody wanted to, like the events that you're doing, maybe give us some examples. Are you doing a wedding?
We do a lot of wedding rehearsal dinners for, so then the group of people is a little less than an actual full-blown wedding more often than not, because obviously we're an expensive product. There's not a whole lot of weddings where you go to, and there are some where you get free lobster. So we do a lot of wedding rehearsal dinners. So we do a mix of private events for wedding rehearsal dinners, birthday parties, things like that. And then we do corporate lunches when the corporation wants to treat their crew to lunch. We do those. And then we do large public events where more often than not the public will pay $10 to get into a food truck festival. And we pay the organizer to get into an event like that because more often than not, they are attracting, the event organizer is advertising and publishing that we're going to have a large event and a lot of people will go there. So we do a mix of private events and then large public events in addition to being on the boulevard.
So if somebody wanted to book you for a rehearsal dinner or any, corporate event, how does it work? Do they pre-buy from you, or do they just say, well, give them whatever they want and send me a bill afterwards?
Well, we do it a couple of different ways. They normally just shoot me an email and then tell me how many people they're expecting, what their anticipated budget is, and then we kind of work within that. So because we have such a wide-ranging menu, sometimes people only want us to serve lobster rolls and clam chowder because they'll have maybe another food truck there. If they want the full menu, which is also hot dogs and hamburgers, sometimes what I'll do is I'll say, okay, people can come up to the truck and order whatever they want, but then we put an additional charge on there. They know about this ahead of time for our food truck to physically be at your property. So in a way, you're essentially renting the food truck for that additional price tag. So sometimes we do it that way, or sometimes when it's just lobster rolls and clam chowder, we just say, okay, it's this much per head. And they'll tell us how many people they expect. And because lobster rolls are such an expensive item, we will agree on a capped number of lobster rolls. So you can't just have 50 people and then get 300 lobster rolls or something like that, because I need to make sure I bring enough as well. So,
yeah, to profit.
Yeah, so we do that.
Say you've got a company with 20 people in it, and everybody's going to have a lobster roll and fries or something.
Yeah.
Like what's like a round number of what that would cost? So
in order for the food truck to come to an event, we have a $2,000 minimum.
Okay.
That's just the number we need to be at to make the truck leaving the parking lot to be worth it. Especially now that we have the boulevard space, we don't want to leave the boulevard space and go somewhere where we might make less money. Not to say that we make that money every time on the boulevard, because we don't, but for me to have a staff and for me to bring the right supplies, so we start with a $2,000 minimum.
Okay.
Yeah.
And would that minimum cover? You're covering that minimum with how many people roughly?
It varies, but what I would do is we have some events where it is a small amount of people. I'll just say, okay, then instead of 25 lobster rolls, you might get 40 lobster rolls, or we'll work within that number to make sure that it's a fair number and that obviously the customer feels like they're getting a fair price for our food truck showing up to their event, no matter how. But what I also do is if it's a small number of people, sometimes I will point them towards a platter, because we do platters to go. And that's just a cheaper option, where if you're at your house party, you could have a platter of either full-size lobster rolls or the finger roll size, which are a great option when you have 10, 15 people.
Yeah, you don't need our whole staff here waiting on you. You just need food.
Yeah, so the platters, sometimes if I feel like financially it's not going to be fair to the customer, I will offer the platter option.
Can they come pick that up from you at the boulevard?
They can, yeah. People have picked it up at the boulevard, and sometimes we've delivered them. So we just work it out individually with each customer and what works best for them and for whatever my schedule is that day.
Or Rockport, right? You've got a location in Rockport that they could go to and grab.
Yeah, people have picked up platters at our Rockport location. So we have a little takeout shop in Rockport, and so whether they're in Rockport or Gloucester, it's up to them, whatever is easiest for them, and we work it out on an individual basis.
What's like the secret sauce to a good lobster roll? Is it like celery salt or something? Like what's that thing that you're like, oh yeah, this is the thing that when you make it at your house, like you're never gonna do it, right?
Yeah, so it's
like full flavored mayo
first
or
there's the debate of, is it a cold mayonnaise lobster roll or is it a hot buttered lobster roll? So we offer both. And we ask each customer. We implemented that last season where we ask each customer which one they would prefer.
What happens when they say, I don't know because I'm from Florida?
Well, then we recommend trying it cold for the first time, because we consider that the traditional Massachusetts way of making it. But if I would say now that we've started offering it, it's about 70% people asking for butter. Really? Which is wild for some of us that have always had it with mayonnaise. But yeah, so
But maybe they just want something different because they've had it the other way so many
yeah,
times. They're
or
like, "God,
if
give me
they
a different."
don't know, then they always think of lobster as dipped in butter, warm dipped in butter. So some of them cannot even fathom cold mayonnaise. They don't even understand the concept of that. So they just traditionally think of cracking open a lobster warm with butter. So they'll get it that way. But the best lobster roll is a simple lobster roll. Nothing else in it. Just good, fresh meat, toasted, buttered bun. And yeah, we put mayonnaise and celery salt in it, and that's it. Nothing else. We don't have lettuce. We don't even have lettuce on the truck. So,
Plus,
yeah.
we before this recording, we were talking about like a ridiculously New England version of French fries with clam chowder.
Yeah, we do clam chowder fries. So
Do you make like the chowder like a little thicker? So it's like poutine?
we do, yes, yeah. So we try. Sometimes when I make the clam chowder, it can be on the thin side. It's just the way it naturally turns out. But we prefer for the clam chowder fries for it to be thick. We put the clam chowder on top of French fries, and we put crumbled bacon bits on top of that. And it's just comfort food.
Ridiculous.
At the best level possible.
Scoop a lobster on top too,
Yeah.
and you'd be set.
It's perfect.
What's obviously the lobster roll is your number one, but like alternative, what's the next best thing? It's probably a hot dog for kids.
For kids, hot dogs, French fries. At the Gloucester Block Party, cheese fries sell so fast that we broke a crock pot one year because it just couldn't keep up. The lobster grilled cheese is real popular for a lot of the locals who want something different other than a lobster roll. And last year we started doing a smash burger, and that has caught on to the point where people sometimes get upset when we've sold out of smash burgers because they come specifically for that option. So you'll see when I post the event schedule, sometimes I also put what the menu is because some events I can't sell the burger for different reasons. So now I've had to physically put whether or not the burger will be at that particular event.
So where do you typically update like where you are and when you're there? Like, is that a Facebook page or like an Instagram page thing? Like people
Both.
should check?
Yeah, so we do the lobsterroller.com. We have the schedule on there. And then we also put it on Instagram and Facebook every week. I'll just do a screenshot Canva page of where we're going to be that particular week. And we
Okay.
do that every week.
This is really cool. What's like everybody's dream is to work in because everyone wants to eat the thing. You're probably sick of lobster rolls at this point. Are you sick of them?
I force myself to eat at least one every season to make sure that we're still doing it in a way that I'm proud of. But I rarely eat lobster.
I'm imagining, like the Woodman's family hasn't eaten a fried clam in like a decade.
But you have to force yourself to eat it every once in a while because I've seen other places where you can tell they don't eat their own food and the quality just has gone downhill. Not necessarily with the lobster roll company, but just I think it's important we occasionally try it. One thing we experimented with last fall on a slow, rainy day was a spicy mayo roll. So we just add hot sauce to the mayonnaise and like a spicy tuna roll. It's a spicy mayo lobster roll, and that is really good. We're going to put that on the menu this summer.
Permanent?
And it's going to be on there on a pretty regular basis. We tried it out, and like I said, people kept coming back to the truck and asking for it, and that was on a slow, rainy day, and it was doing well. So for those of you that like a little spice, a little kick, we're going to add that this summer, and I'm excited about that.
You heard it here on Cape Ann Conversations.
That's right. I haven't publicly mentioned that at all. But yeah, the spicy mayo lobster roll is going to be a thing.
What's next? Are we anticipating a second truck? Like you've got maybe a second location? What's next?
I would love to have multiple trucks. So we started with the little trailer. We still have that, and that does go out occasionally. But we're primarily use the larger food truck now. I would love to have multiple food trucks so that we can keep getting out to more events and hire more people. And so that is the goal, to keep growing with more food trucks. Getting the Rockport takeout shop has been a learning curve as far as the difference between a food truck and a brick and mortar. And I like both options. They both are strong for different reasons, but having more food trucks is the ultimate goal right now.
Yeah, because you don't really like days off.
From April to November, they do not exist.
Yeah.
No, they do not.
You haven't been on in the boat in a while.
No.
So, okay. I think everybody knows what they need to do, but just remind everybody. So you've got the website. What's your Instagram handle?
It's either Lobster Roller or The Lobster Roller, but Lobster Roller.
Okay,
Yeah.
so people can go follow you
Pretty
there
simple,
so they
yeah.
know where you're at and
Yeah.
when you're there and what's on the menu.
Yeah, exactly.
If they want to chat about booking a party, your number's on the...
Yeah, email is the best, thelobsterroller@gmail.com, just because then I can physically show you all of our menu options, and it's just easier than trying to catch me on the phone or a text message or something like that. So yeah, email is the best for your private event or corporate event parties.
Awesome. What else? Anything else? Facebook they get you at?
Yeah, we do Facebook. I try to be as creative as I can with TikToks because that's...
If it doesn't get banned.
Yeah. So
Might be gone.
we do TikToks on a pretty regular basis.
It's probably a great business for TikToks
It
because
is.
you can just shoot like a video of giving somebody a lobster roll every day.
Yeah, and I try to get creative with it. I just posted a video with my board of directors, which the board of directors is my dog and my cat, and we talked about the last season and upcoming season. So that video has been pretty popular. So we're just, I'm trying all the social media stuff to get us out there and keep us in the front of everyone's brains when they need a food truck or they just want a hot dog and French fries. That's fine. So yeah, we're pushing as hard as we can to just make sure we stay in the forefront of everybody's minds.
Well, we appreciate you feeding Cape Ann here. So everybody that's listening, go get a lobster roll. Treat yourself. If not, try a smash burger if you're not into seafood. We'll see you on the boulevard. How's that sound?
Sounds good. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks for coming.